Hello and welcome back to The Jam here on DZRJ Radio, the voice of the Philippines. We're talking about some interesting stories going on around the world. And now moving over to the U.S. As of today, President Trump has been in office 100 days. 100 days is sort of the benchmark we look at as far as presidents go. They make all these promises when they're trying to get elected as to what they're going to do in the first 100 days. Then when that day finally shows up, we can look at it to see if they kept their word on things. President Duterte had promised to fix the drug problem and rid the country of all the drug lords and get rid of corruption in the government, bring peace to Mindanao, increase wages of the police and the military, bury Ferdinand Marcos, lay claim to the disputed islands in the South China Sea. Oh yeah, and fix the traffic problems. Duterte has had some big successes in his 100 days, and that's been reported on quite extensively. But yesterday, we got a chance to look at how Donald Trump has done in his first 100 days. What legislative accomplishments has he had in just over 3 months? Now, Donald Trump did something interesting at the start of his presidency. He made a contract, an action plan to make America great again. This contract he made himself, and he signed it, promising a whole list of things that he would do once he was elected. President Trump last Friday boasted about his accomplishments of his first 100 days in office, calling his administration one of the most successful in history. My fellow Americans, I truly believe that the first 100 days of my administration has been just about the most successful in our country's history. He said, our country is going up and going up fast. Trump also said that it's a false standard, the 100 days. But I have to tell you, I don't think anybody has done what we have been able to do in 100 days. When asked by a reporter how Trump would grade himself, he said he would give himself an A. An A usually means that not only did you get all your work done, but also that you did it perfectly. So let's take a look and see what President Trump did that warrants this A. His biggest accomplishment was he nominated a man named Neil Gorsuch who to the Supreme Court. Now, in the United States, it's a pretty big deal because they will decide some of the biggest issues and court cases in the country. And currently, there are 4 liberals and 4 conservatives. So this guy is basically the tiebreaker guy. But the big issue was that he was not really supposed to be nominated at all. The vacant seat came up when Obama was president. However, he nominated someone and the Republicans refused to allow him to be confirmed or even be heard. And then when Mr. Gorsuch was voted in, they didn't even have enough votes to confirm him, so they changed the rules so that he could be given a seat on the court. So this means that from now on, for the first time in history of nominating Supreme Court people, whoever controls Congress will decide who gets to be the judge. Something else was the withdrawal from the Trans-Pacific Partnership. This was a deal made between the U.S. and the Pacific Rim countries. However, even though Trump pulled out the U.S. out of it, it really hasn't been ratified by Congress yet. So I'm not sure what the point of this one was. He pulled us out of something that we're not even in yet. Anyway, Trump approved the Keystone XL pipeline, reversing Obama's decision to block the oil project. It's a pipeline that runs oil from Canada to the oil refineries in the western United States. The approval follows years of debate over the pipeline's environmental impact on the region, which it pumps 17% more greenhouse gases than standard crude oil extraction and cuts right through one of the world's largest underground deposits of fresh water, not to mention the sacred Indian grounds that it crosses. Trump also sent a boatload of Tomahawk cruise missiles into Syria as a retaliation to the chemical attack on its own citizens. He did this after saying that the U.S. should not get involved in any way in the situation in Syria. It was said that his daughter Ivanka talked him into this after seeing the video of the poor children after the gas attack. They bombed the airport, which was where the original bombing planes took off. However, it did little damage. In fact, it was operational the very next day. Critics saw this as a almost publicity stunt just to get his poll numbers up. A week later, he bombed Afghanistan with the largest non-nuclear weapon on Earth, codenamed the mother of all bombs, which was never been used before because of its ridiculously high destructive force. Supposedly this was done to kill ISIS members and send a message to North Korea. Well, the multi-million-dollar operation killed supposedly around 90 ISIS members, and North Korea has stepped up its weapons program. Trump set into motion a huge crackdown on illegal immigrants who have brought crime and terrorism into the United States. He said that this was a step to make America safe again. However, more than half of those immigrants arrested have no criminal record. But none of these accomplishments I have listed are any of the big legislative promises that he made on his contract. So let's take a look at some of the big, important things that he promised. Trump promised to ban Muslims from coming into the United States. He signed an executive order banning Muslims from several Middle Eastern countries. But the problem was, at first, no one quite understood what the ban was really for. Was it for all Muslims or all the people from those countries? What about the actual U.S. citizens that weren't born in the U.S.? Anyway, it was all very confusing, and a lot of people didn't know where to go in the airport. And over the next few days, the administration tried to clarify it, and this massive protest began to appear around the country. Then a circuit judge from Washington and the attorney general deemed the whole ban to be unconstitutional. Trump vowed to fight the judge and fired the attorney general. Well, the Trump lawyers said that it wasn't worth fighting because most likely they would lose again. So what they did was they took the Muslim ban and they rewrote it to get around the laws stated by the circuit court judge that stopped it. But then before the second ban could go into effect, other judges blocked that one as well. So his promise to keep Muslims out of the country has not worked. And currently there is no travel ban for Muslims or anyone else coming into the U.S. On a related note, Trump White House launched VOICE, which stands for Victims of Immigration Crime Engagement. Very catchy. It's an office to report undocumented immigrant crimes. The problem was that there was already this kind of program in place. So the White House basically acknowledged this and said it was just a kind of a rebranding so that Trump could put his name on it. But since then, this accomplishment is having so many problems because once the hotline was launched, it was bombarded with people calling in with reports of illegal space alien activity. This is real. People are bombarding the number and it's messing up the whole thing. So please, don't call the line unless you positively see a space alien committing a crime. Repeal and replace Obamacare. Now, Obamacare is the healthcare act that Obama put in place so every American would have health insurance. This was the one promise that Trump said was going to be so very easy. The Republican Congress was going to push this one through on the very first day. When the Trump Care bill finally came out, it was a disaster. Experts claim 24 million Americans would lose their health insurance and premiums would go up for the poor and the middle class. Trump could not get people from his own party to support this bill. Huge protests came out as the public vowed not to vote for any politicians that supported it. Well, the bill was killed before it even got up for a vote. It was never voted on and never passed Congress. The Trump Care bill to repeal and replace Obamacare, however, came back to life just recently. It was revamped as Trump and the Republicans fixed the problems just last week, trying to get it passed before the 100-day mark. They still could not get enough people from their own party to support this bill. And then the protesters came back out again. The bill didn't even make it to the House floor for a vote, putting it back into the coffin and buried in a file box somewhere back where bad bills go. Trump promised huge tax cuts that are going to save people tons of money. Finally, last week, to get something passed before the 100-day mark of his administration, two guys from the investment firm Goldman Sachs came out and released his long-awaited tax plan. Most tax plans are thousands of pages long and are extremely complex. However, this one was one page, double-spaced with large indentions. It's like a homework assignment that you forgot to do, so you did it on the bus going to school. The New York Times reported that this tax plan seems to be written for one person, Donald Trump. It's very simple, easy to read, and he, along with other rich people, would save millions with it. One of the basic principles is that there are less tax brackets. So now, one person making $250,000 a year pays the exact same tax as someone who makes $10 billion a year. When a reporter asked the officials about the specifics of the plan, they said, don't worry, that they would come later. Former senator said that it looks all good because they actually obviously left out all the parts that are very bad. The border wall. Trump's biggest campaign promise was to build a great big beautiful wall that Mexicans are going to pay for. Well, the previous president of Mexico said that they will never pay for this effing stupid wall. Trump tried to get Congress to fund the wall until later when they figured out how to get the Mexicans to pay for it. However, Congress said they are not going to pay for this wall either. The issue with the border wall was that it was meant to keep Mexicans and drugs from crossing into the United States. However, some Mexicans have said that if you build a 30-foot wall, we will just build a 31-foot ladder. Also, they can't build a wall high enough that we can't throw drugs over. So currently, the wall is not being built, nor does it look like it will. Also, a whole host of other things like infrastructure funding, new trade tariffs, the labeling of China as a currency manipulator. So far, Trump has zero major accomplishments in legislation. Many have spoken out in the news, giving the president a grade of F. Not because they don't like him, but so far he just hasn't been able to do anything. In the first 100 days, he claimed 3 million people illegally voted, that he had the largest inauguration in history, that he got more electoral votes than anyone in history, and that President Obama illegally tapped his phones. All of which has turned out to be what we now know as alternative facts, or what we used to call them, lies. Donald Trump said in an interview this week that being president is harder than he realized, and he really thought it would be easier. Well, if you want any easy job, I'm not sure President of the United States would have been first on my list. Maybe a toll collector or a ice cream scooper at Dairy Queen. You're listening to The Jam. This is Eric LeCain here on DZRJ Radio, the voice of the Philippines. We'll be back right after these commercial messages.